Hello my lovelies and welcome to Lean and Clean Fitness Chef Christine. I am your host Christine and today we are going to do something that we talk about all the time. That is high protein with lots of vegetables. But this time it's all in one dish. So think about a cabbage roll that is deconstructed. But this time we're using ground bison. You can substitute ground beef with no problem. The thing I love about ground bison is that it's very mild, but it has even higher protein than beef. So I saw it on sale and that's what I'm going with today. Feel free, like I said, use ground turkey, use ground beef, use whatever you have. Like anything, the recipe can be made your own. Don't worry about that. So, having said that, we're gonna slice up a whole cabbage. I've already done 3/4 of it. Ta-da! And I salted it, which will help take out some excess moisture. That's what we want. We don't want it to be too much. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and slice the rest of this cabbage. And I do it on an angle so you get nice slices. But however you wish to do it is just fine. You can even use a bag of slaw, just fine. Now the bag of slaw is gonna have a slightly less moisture content because it's been cut up for quite a while. So just keep that in mind, you don't need to salt that as much. We're just gonna put that into our big bowl. Add a little bit more salt on top so it starts to weep a little more. We don't get too much moisture in our final product, so we'll just salt that up. And then we've got a potato. This is a very important thing. This is the garbage bowl. And I compost or I feed it to the cows depending on what I've got. So composting is a great way to fertilize your plants. We're just gonna go around and rather than use a vegetable peeler, I'm just gonna take my knife around. But as always, feel free to do what works for you. This is just really efficient because then I don't have to wash anything else. Into the garbage bowl that goes. I'm gonna take that in half. And then we're gonna quarter those. And we want things about the same so that we cook at the same temperature. So we're gonna go ahead and put those in our bowl. And those are gonna cook along. We'll go onions first in our pan and then we'll get some garlic. Now, if you've been with me for a while, you know that my system does not like garlic. But what I do love is the flavor of garlic. So I put it in whole and then I extract it so that I'm not actually ingesting the garlic. So that is a way to get the flavor without having any intestinal issues for me. All right, so right here, I've got some nice yellow onions. I'm just gonna give them a chop. Don't worry if you're not a good chopper, just use a chopper, use whatever you got. I think people tend to worry too much about perfect knife skills and less about getting their vegetables in. And what I want to encourage everybody is to get back to the table, get back to cooking your own food. Your skills will improve with practice, but if you're constantly eating out, guess what? Your skills are gonna die up and wither. So let's get to it, my loves. It's so wonderful when you can control what goes in your bod. You'll have such a happier body. All right, we're gonna throw those scraps into the jug. Let's get these garlic peeled right here and pull off the side. Now I'm using a cast iron pan today. I love cast iron. I love how it heats nice and evenly. People always worry that it's not nonstick, but I have to tell you that it cleans like a dream. Like it's no big deal. As long as it's really well taken care of, there's no issue. But I go a lot of times to antique places and I find old cast iron that's been abused and it's rusty, and I love to bring them back to life. So that is, maybe one day we'll do an episode where we do that. It's a bit of work, some more than others. Sometimes I have to get out an electric sander and really get going with it. And sometimes it just needs a good SOS pad and some good arm scrubbing and we're good to go. But regardless, it's totally worth it because those pans last a long time, especially the old ones. I love them. Okay, so we're gonna get started just sauteing our onions and our garlic, and then we will get moving from there. Let's get our pan on there. This is, of course, an induction. It is just a, whoops, we gotta switch the plug here. For whatever reason, I killed the plug that this one goes onto. There we go. Ooh, my eye is weeping from the onions. There we go. We'll put it on medium for now. So we get our light back on there. There we go. We'll get that heated, and then we'll get some olive oil in there. Get that coated. My goodness. Frying eyes. And we'll get our bench scraper so I don't kill my knife, because that's not a good thing. We'll get that garlic in a little bit here. And we'll let those onions work good. And even though it looks like a mound of cabbage, when you cook down greens, they cook down to nothing. So we have no problem with that amount of cabbage. So we're gonna get that working, get those softening. Oh my goodness. Just get that going here. And while that is doing its thing, whoopsies, this thing is so sensitive. If I press a button, it turns off. There we go. And it has that magical little healthy sound. Again, if you've been with me for a while, you know that I live out in the country and the closest grocery store is 15 miles away. Oftentimes I have to use some frozen veggies in addition to fresh vegetables because they're just not available to me. When I went to the store today, they didn't have any peppers. I had to go with frozen. Nothing wrong with that. It's a good option. And oftentimes you can get some really good, if you don't have good local produce, that's the way to go, and nothing wrong. Okay, so we're gonna get those onions sweating out, and then we'll go ahead and add our ground beef to that and let that marry up together, and we'll take it from there. The onions are starting to soften. The garlic has done its job, so I'm gonna go ahead and remove that. So we'll put that right in the garbage bowl and get as much of it as I can out. And the fact that I left it chunky helps us get it out. Stir that. To that, I'm going to add a tablespoon of sun-dried tomato paste. So if you don't have sun-dried tomato paste, then you can use this jar of sun-dried tomatoes, and that'll work perfectly well. I'm going to add about a tablespoon. I did add some salt into the onions and some pepper. And now we're going to add some paprika. I can open the bag. I can kitchen scissors. And I just want about a teaspoon. There we go, we'll just add that in there. And a little bit of nutmeg, about yay much. Cayenne pepper is optional. If you're not a person that loves spice, go easy on it. If you love spice, then add what you like, and a little bit of nutmeg. I like nutmeg because when you taste it, you're like, what is that? Gives it just a nice complexity. All right, so I'm stirring those, warm up those spices. And now we're gonna add our 2 potatoes. And our peppers. So we're going to let those do those things for a few minutes here, and then we'll create a well in the center where we'll get started cooking our bison. Again, it could be any kind of meat you like. And then we'll finish off with our cabbage and we'll assemble it all and we're going to bake it. Keep with me. So our vegetables have been sauteing for about 2 minutes now. I'm going to add a tablespoon of flour to the center, and it will help thicken up those juices that are caused by the veggies. I'm just going to move that aside. As I said, we're going to make room for our bison. Now, at this point, you could take out the vegetables if you wanted to, if you wanted to use the whole pan. But I like the flavors to marry a little more, so I'm just going to leave it right in there. And we'll just squeeze that right out. All the bison out of there. And we're going to season that with a little bit of Lowry's seasoning salt and some black pepper. And then we'll break that apart and get that browning. It goes fairly quickly. Like folding those veggies. They're all working together. And then I will keep doing this until there is no more pink left in our bison. And then I'll remove it, and I'm going to put the cabbage in there until it's all completely sauteed down, and then we'll assemble. This will take a few minutes, and then I'll show you the next step. All right, I removed the veg, and now the pan is nice and hot. I'm going to add a tiny bit of oil, and and start layering my cabbage. This used to be just a tad. Remember, we have a lot of cabbage to do, so we're gonna do it in batches so that we don't get overcrowded and it doesn't actually cook. And I'm gonna cover it, and that will help speed everything up because we don't wanna be here all day and night trying to cook it all off. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. Alternatively, you can put it on pan and put it in the oven and let that do it while you're cooking all the rest of it. But I've got time today, so this is no big deal. At any rate, let this cook, and then I'll show you we're gonna assemble it and bake it. All right, I'm in my last batch of this cabbage, and I'm gonna add a little bit of water to the pan because all of the water has seeped out of the cabbage, and we need that to steam a little bit. I'll show you what I did with the first batch of cabbage. I layered it into a casserole pan, and then I'm gonna take our meat mixture with our veg in there, and I want you to taste each piece. So taste a piece of the cabbage, make sure it has enough seasoning, good amount of salt, good amount of pepper, and then we're gonna start layering the beef mixture. Or the last bit of this cabbage does it sing. Go all the way across the top. Making sure that it's covering every bit of it. Don't worry about if your potatoes are a little bit firm because they're gonna go ahead and cook in the oven too. And you want a bit of caramelization on those, so we're good to go. Make sure that you've tasted your meat and vegetables. As I said, we wanna make sure everything has great flavor so that when it all comes together, it's all got great flavor. Now I'm gonna take a mixture blend of cheeses and I'm gonna cover the top of this, and then we'll make another layer. To do that, about a cup of cheese, so it's not a whole lot, but just a nice scattering of cheese on there. I'm gonna take another layer of this cabbage, another layer of the beef, and another layer of cheese. I'm gonna bake it in the oven, and we'll show you what it looks like. We are ready to put it in the oven. It's all assembled. So it went a layer of cabbage, a layer of the meat and vegetables, a layer of cheese, a layer of cabbage, just like a lasagna. You're bringing it up. Then we're going to cover it. We're going to put it in a 350-degree oven until it's nice and golden and bubbly. However long that takes, we'll keep checking it. So here it is, the finished product. It is absolutely delicious and filled with great nutrients. That's the best part. You're really high in volume of vegetables and great protein. But let's talk a little bit about cabbage. The great thing about cabbage is it's low in calories, but it's got great nutrients. Great vitamin C, vitamin K, vitamin B, folate, magnesium, potassium. It's got great antioxidant properties, blah, 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 if I can talk. Let's talk about its anti-inflammatory properties, and it supports good heart health and fiber with potassium and antioxidants, as I said. It'll help you lose weight because there's a good amount of volume and keeps you full. Now, I will have to say, you might need some gas X after you eat, but it's totally worth it. There's a lot of evidence that there's a good amount of cancer prevention that happens when you eat a big volume of cabbage. There's really no downside to eating it other than getting the gas X under control, but hey, it's worth it. Give it a shot. I think you're gonna love it. And if you are a lasagna lover and you want more tomato sauce, go ahead and incorporate that. Make it your own, but I'm telling you, give it a shot. I think you're gonna love it. All right, my friends, if you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, follow. If you're on Apple Podcasts, make sure you might wanna watch it on YouTube so you can see how it's done. But I will go ahead and post the recipe in the show notes along with all my links. Thank you for being with me here today. Remember to hydrate.